Good afternoon. We will now call the Beaufort County Board of Education Special Call Board meeting to order. The date is September 3rd, 2020. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda, maybe with a set time to adjourn?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve the agenda for September 3rd special called meeting with a duration of a maximum of 2 hours.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Earl Campbell, any discussion? Mr. Dowling? We can't hear you, John, you're muted.
Thank you. I think just as a procedural matter, it should be broken into two motions. We need to approve the agenda as posted, and if it doesn't have time on it, that's an extra add. So why don't we do approve the agenda and then pass a motion to adjourn at 6, please?
I will amend my motion to, per Mr. Dowling's suggestion. So I move to approve the agenda for September 3rd as noted.
I'll second.
Okay, Kathy, second, Robine. Mr. Dowling, your hand's back up or not down?
Not down.
Okay.
It is now.
Thank you. All right, voting is open.
Yes.
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 Yes. It's not popping up. Robine, yes.
Quads, yes.
Orchak, yes.
Rachel, were you a yes?
Yes, ma'am. And I just heard from Mel a little bit ago, he's going to be late.
Okay. Voting's closed.
Motion carries 10-0. Mr. Melvin Campbell absent. So Tricia, now you can go ahead.
Okay. I move that the duration of this meeting be limited to 2 hours.
Second.
Who was that?
Geyer did one.
Thank you, Mr. Geyer. All right, any discussion?
I'm trying to get my hand up here. Bear with me.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So does that mean that we cannot extend the meeting? Should we choose at that time? It's set at 2 hours. Is that correct?
That's my motion.
Okay. And if we are not through the first, all the way through of the manual, are we just dropping it at that juncture? How would we proceed with the imposed time limit? Can anyone answer?
So I'm not sure of your question.
So let's say we don't get all the way through the manual this evening. That, maybe we get 3/4 of the way through. I don't know how it's going to progress. If we run out of time, what happens? Is this meeting ended and not to be continued? Will there be a subsequent meeting dedicated? I just want to understand before I go ahead and vote. I think it's a reasonable motion. I just want to understand what the next step is. That's all.
I'll let you answer, Tricia, and I'm happy to.
Oh, well, I would have I'm assuming that if we don't complete this, then we would schedule another meeting for this purpose.
A separate dedicated meeting. Excellent. That's just what I wanted to hear. Thanks, Tricia.
Yes, and that would be my suggestion, Ms. Orshak, because I don't think that this is well done during a business meeting or a typical, so I would recommend, although, I'm not chair, I would recommend that we would have another dedicated meeting.
I would agree. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Kathy Robine?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the answer to Ms. Orshak's question is once we where we see where we are. I don't see where somebody couldn't make a motion to extend for another 15 minutes if that was necessary, if we were that close to finishing. But, John, you're shaking your head. You couldn't do that?
Well, you'd have to reverse the original motion. It's cumbersome.
Okay, let's,
If you're concerned about it, amend Tricia's motion to read adjourn at 6 o'clock subsequent to any recommended extension. You
Not
gotta
rec-
put should put the option to extend
oh,
in
okay.
this motion.
So why don't we just say unless extended?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
By vote.
Just because, you know, if we're 10 minutes away,
Right.
Right,
you know,
right, I agree.
So you're good with that, Tricia, just to add unless extended by vote?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Did you hear that, Robin? By vote after extended.
It's coming.
Okay. Any further discussion?
no. Stick my hand down.
Thanks. All right. Voting is open.
Yes,
Quads, yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Motion carries unanimously. All right. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge of allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and justice.
and justice for all.
The media was properly notified, and we do not have any public comments, correct, Robin?
Correct.
All right, we're going to continue on the first reading, our discussion of the draft coherence governance manual. So I'll turn it over to David, and I believe we're starting on page 19 now. EC4, officers' roles.
Okay,
Okay.
everybody, okay. We're all focused on GC4. Officers' roles. As you see, there's a lot of red, which changes made over the last 3 committees. So if there are any questions on this page, which is basically the election process. I would point to B, by the way, because I'm not sure that we've been requiring a second on nominations in the past. I don't see any problem with it, but I don't think we usually get a second.
We did last time.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Orshak?
Thank you. I have a motion that pertains to, under election process, item A. Robin, I will read it slowly. It's just a tweaking of the existing policy there. All board officers will be elected to a 1, and then in parentheses, 1-year term, and serve until a successor is elected and assumes the office. Election of officers will be held at the first calendar year meeting in January. So that's,
Would you mind putting that in chat? Because I lost you at 1-year term and serve until.
okay. So the only thing that is changing, Robin, in that first sentence is you're changing the word two to one.
One.
Okay, and then obviously in parentheses, you're changing the numeral two to the numeral one.
Correct.
So that's it for that sentence. Okay, and then the next changes come to the second sentence, and it will read, it's basically the same thing up until a certain point. Election of officers will be held at the first calendar year meeting. The first calendar year meeting in January. Okay, and then the rest of that paragraph remains the same. If available, a Beaufort County magistrate will preside over the election.
So you're removing the seating of new board members?
No.
Actually, point of order, Madam Chair. I'll go ahead and second it. It needed to be seconded before it was even begin to be a motion.
Well, that's a good point,
Who
but
needs the motion first?
Yeah,
Wouldn't
you
you?
gotta put out the motion on.
motion, William.
Before you can second it.
Okay, so elections will be held. You can add for the seating. Well, no, you have to skip seating of new board members because new board members are not seated every calendar year. So you have to remove that section and end the sentence.
All right, that's what I was asking.
Thank you. I missed that point. So yes, you are ending after the word January.
All board officers will be elected to a one-year term and serve, let's see. Let me add that in until a success. You want all of that in?
Yes, that's correct, to the end of the sentence.
All right. So William, are you seconding her motion?
That's fine, yeah.
And then if I may, since I made the comment,
Go ahead.
thank you. There's no reason why a successful officer at the end of the first year cannot be reelected over and over and over. This doesn't even put any limits to the number of times. But what it does is it provides the board with an option at the end of each year to either stay with the current leadership or, decide to move someone else in. It provides flexibility. We've learned in the past that it's almost nearly impossible to change board leadership midway. Attempts have been made, and that never plays out well or works well. So this would just provide more flexibility for the board.
So Robin, you have a quotation, but you need an A after that first quotation.
To
All, right?
all, got it.
Can you make it a hair smaller?
Let's see if I can.
We need a D in the and in the first sentence.
All board officers will be elected to and
To
serve.
a one and
And serve. Pull it back up to see what we're talking about. To serve until to serve.
You have it kind of not quite the way Joanne said it.
Right, I'm trying to, good. So we're changing, let's see, to be elected to a one-year term and we're not putting the rest of it and serve until successor. That comes out.
No.
Okay,
Robin, let me do this. Let me,
wait a minute, just read.
you want me to read it slowly for you?
Oh, well, go ahead.
Let me read it as say it. All board officers will be elected to a one-year term and serve until a successor is elected and assume the office.
Correct.
All right.
And then how about the second sentence?
Wait a minute, let me get that first.
Okay.
Assumes the office. The second sentence says, election of officers will be held at the first calendar year meeting in January.
Period.
If available, a Beaufort County magistrate will preside over the election.
Excellent. That's it.
Okay, so let me clean that part of it up.
Thank you.
Until. I will correct until. Is that it?
Mr. Dowling?
Yeah. It looks good, Robin. Looks
Mr.
good.
Dowling?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to support this because I'm going to use the old Dayton Allen line, why not? If someone's doing a good job as chair or vice chair or secretary, they can, as Joanne said, keep getting reelected, reelected, reelected. Sometimes this has nothing to do with people who are in the position now, but it's quite possible that sometimes the board might make a mistake. And this offers some remedy. The other thing I heard in the past is that some people said, well, it takes some time to get comfortable with the position, so a 1 year would be short. I would maintain that a good board would not elect anyone to a position who has any kind of learning curve to achieve at all. We wouldn't elect a chair or a vice chair or a secretary if they had to sit down and get accustomed to the job 2 months. I would want someone who works well from day one. So I don't see any downside to this whatsoever. So I will support it.
Mr. Stribinger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would point out that if we ever get aligned with state statute, which says that board members are supposed to be seated within 2 weeks after the election is certified, that first meeting in January thing will be a problem. So I'm not sure if you want to reconsider that part of it. I know we haven't aligned yet, but we know we're supposed to. So if the officers were not reelected, you wouldn't have any officers from November to January. So after the seating of the new board members, I think gives you more flexibility in case we ever get lined up with state law.
Ms. Fidrich?
You know, that was my point too. I understand the first change that Ms. Orshak, you're suggesting and John's reasoning, behind it. But my concern is the second change you're recommending as in terms of what David just said about trying to get our election in line with what we're supposed to do after November instead of waiting to seat members in January. So that's my concern with with having the two changes in the one motion.
I'll speak since I haven't spoken. I agree. That's exactly the point I was going to bring up also, is what David and Tricia just said. Ms. Orshak?
Okay, thank you. Yes. So would, since officers or new board members would be sworn in potentially if we do get in line with statute in November, correct?
Yes.
Would it be November?
Yeah, 2 weeks after the election is certified.
Okay.
So that would be November.
So let's say election of officers will be held at the second November board meeting? Would that be appropriate? And if it's not, at some juncture in the future, I'll be gone. Obviously, I'm making the motion now. This won't impact me at all. But if at some point in the future the board sees that that second meeting in November does not provide adequate time, you could always, I assume, adjust that at any time. We have the flexibility at any time. So, do we need someone to amend this to say election of officers will be held at the second November board meeting?
I just changed it. Did I need to wait?
But then you're back to the other problem right now. The new board is not seated till January. So it seems like you should leave the wording the way it is for that, because it will cover both situations. And it will also cover the situation when somebody's contesting an election and is not seated is not finalized, the election's not certified in a week or two.
A very good point. But does that satisfy the board members who took issue with the wording?
Well, I was one of them.
So, okay, so we resolved that? Yes, no? The successor, until a successor is elected, and that's part of the first sentence. So they're going to stay in there until a successor is elected, unless, of course, they lost their seat in an election, and it may go to a vice chair or a secretary per board policy. At any rate, the thrust of this motion is to just provide a little flexibility for the board going forward. That's all.
Mr. Smith.
I was going to say that I guess this is a good point for a year. I can see where a year would be good, and I was just thinking back as I was reflecting to myself. I do remember when when Mrs. Frederick said I was talking about I brought up a while back about the chairing different committees and stuff, as well as that it would probably be good for some of us to maybe even switch committees as different chairing as people, as board members, so that we could possibly experience different things. Even though she said, I don't want to quote her, but I think but even though she's an educator, she might want to look into a different part of what we do as committees on the board. And so, just thinking back about some of that, I too do agree with that this motion will be a good motion to support. So I will support this motion.
Mr. Dowling? You have to unmute.
Thank you. The timing is not an issue for at least until 2022. The candidates who have filed for the election in November have filed for a 2-year term. So it is too late to change that now. So having a policy with a shelf life of 2 years is perfectly acceptable. And I think that the solution to when that will phase in should be dealt with by the board that is seated at that time, not by us. So I think that it's a superfluous concern. Does not affect
Would
what
anybody
we need to do here.
that hasn't spoken? I saw Mel, your hand was up and then maybe down.
Yeah, I'm concerned with where we're going with the motion. If the intent is to have the officers seated in January, and we're going to change the rules, as David stated, to coincide with the state statute, then, perhaps you don't need the November comments in there, but we do need the first sentence in that motion. And so like John says, after that is, it's incumbent upon the board to make sure that we're seated the beginning of the year. That's where I'm understanding it. Y'all can help me out. I just got it.
So can I ask you, so you're, I don't know, if I understand you correctly, you would leave that second sentence the way it is in the currently?
No, I take it out completely.
Take it out completely, okay. All right,
And I'd assume that we're going to, you know, coordinate with the state statute where we will be, you know, electing the officers 2 weeks after they've been instated, and that would be a board thing. Whereas now we can't do it because we don't install the officers until January. So it'd be up to us to change our installation time. That's the way I'm looking at it. But
Thank-
y'all help me understand
thank
if
you.
I'm off course.
Mr. Smith?
He's muted.
You're muted, William.
I was gonna ask Mr. Campbell, did he want to make that motion?
Well,
Or
the motion's made already. I don't know if we
Did
need
you
to
want to amend
change.
it? Skip, did you want to amend it?
Yeah, too. I would like to amend it to eliminate the second sentence there.
And I'll second it.
So now it's just going to be the first sentence. So
Yeah.
your amendment is striking the second sentence.
Yes. I mean, I think the gist of the motion is the 1-year term, right?
Right.
And the hindrance of that motion is the fact that we don't start to accommodate the 1-year term. So in order to make this motion even possible, we'll have to look at some other things we're doing so that, you know, officers are hitting the ground running in January as opposed to being inducted in January. That's the way I'm looking at it.
So Robin, could you please put that up there?
Yes. Trying to.
So I guess I should ask you, Mel, to clarify too. Are you going to leave, if available, a Beaufort County magistrate will preside over the election?
Your mic is muted, Mel, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell, your mic's muted.
I don't know if it's law or not, but that's something more traditional than law. Y'all, David or John?
Mel, are you asking me to speak?
Yes, I'm asking you.
I'll be glad to.
Yeah.
The last sentence is completely unnecessary. And I think this is good to discuss right now because the first sentence says what we want to do. And then all
Okay.
the stuff we're arguing about is
Okay.
how we're going to do it. The policy doesn't have to state how we're going to do it. The policy has to state, what do we want? We want a 1-year term for the officers. That's all it has to say. And
Right.
then the details can be worked out later when the time is appropriate.
Okay.
Okay.
That's basically what I was trying to say, John. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Great minds work together,
I'll
Mel.
agree to that.
Leave the last sentence in then, Mr. Campbell, or remove it?
Out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just, yeah, so we're changing, as you say here, GC4A to this one sentence. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, voting is open.
Dowling, yes.
Orishak, yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-1. Mr. Stribinger is no. All right.
Do I dispose of the original motion then?
Yes.
Yes, because it wouldn't apply
This
now.
takes precedent.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm deleting it. Okay,
All right, well, half hour, we've gotten through that first sentence.
That's what I thought too.
Anything else on page 19?
Yes, I would also like to make a motion that we adopt the county council officers.
What?
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the county council officer selection process.
And what is that?
Basically that the chairman comes from the north and the vice chair comes from the south. So therefore, every year there is both areas have a different representation in the switching.
I'll second the discussion.
You know, we adopt a lot of county councils. We've adopted a lot of what they do, and then that's something too that they do, and I think it goes along with the same way how they do 1 year, and 1 year, just like this year when the current chair, he resigned, and someone from that area had to take upon that seat. And I think that's a great practice, because now you're keeping everyone involved, and you're keeping it fair, and also you're getting different representation. And like I said, we've adopted a lot of stuff that county council have done, a lot of what they do. So I figured, why not? If we do want to do it all. So I agree with the practice.
Mr. Dowling?
I have to really strongly oppose this motion. It's throughout our policies that we make decisions in the interest of what's best for the county. The chair, especially the chair, is the presiding officer, makes no decisions that affect geographical origin. So it just doesn't matter. I would hope that the board elects a chair based on the person that has the best leadership skills, no matter where they're from. If you're alternating every other year based on whether it's from north or south of the broad, there may be a dearth of talent in one of those areas when it comes time to do the switch. And that is not good government for the people of the county as a whole. So I think that by doing this, we'll also send a message that the school district is not really one district. It accentuates the difference between North of Broad and South of Broad. And I think that's a big mistake. So I will vote no.
Ms. Robine?
I agree with John. I cannot support this. I think it puts constraints on us that we don't want. I don't think we should be tying our hands with who we elect as officers. And I think we don't want to emphasize the divide, north and south. We want to be one unified. So I cannot support this.
Ms. Orshak?
I'm conflicted on this one. I agree with Mr. Dowling and Mrs. Robine that we don't want to put any constraints. The seated board at that juncture should be free to select who they believe are the best qualified representatives on the board to serve in leadership roles. So I agree with that. However, Mr. Smith's motion is not completely without merit, because history has shown us that, board members throughout time have utilized their leadership roles to facilitate or provide advantages to certain geographies. And it's been quite effective, actually. So I'm not dismissing, Mr. Smith, the merit of what you're saying from what I've observed over the years. However, I would never want to tie a future board's hand from making the decision they feel is best. So unfortunately, I'm going to vote no on this.
Mr. Mel Campbell?
I agree with what's been said so far. I know probably much or more of the history of this North-South thing than anybody present on the board today. And yeah, the history does go back, and Joanne's point is very referenced. And I'm sure that might be a degree of intent with what Mr. Smith's motion intend to accomplish. But we have to just respect the district lines and the representation from each district, and hopefully the board makes the proper decision in terms of leadership, and are very conscious of the entire district. So I don't think it's good optics to have a northern fight, because it's end up being an infighting territorial thing eventually, and we don't want that ever.
Mr. Smith?
Dr. Guala, I know that you had your hand up before I did, so you can go ahead and say what you need to say.
I also will not support this motion for the reasons already expressed. Okay. I'll let Earl speak because he hasn't spoken yet. Earl?
Yes, I haven't seen, and I've been on the board longer than all of us, and I have never seen anything, an area is benefited by who was the chair. That I had some problem, because I think that there were superintendents we had in the past that probably did that. But a board chair cannot do that, or would not do that. You know, if you take a look at how long it took us to get a school up here in the Whale Branch area, and I was chair, but you know, so you can't say the chair have the influence on what goes on different areas. I think we should do it. The best qualified person should serve as chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Mr. Smith?
Well, one thing about it is I believe that we all can agree to disagree, but I disagree with that. And once again, I will support this motion, because I feel that this motion will give everyone a fair and equal opportunity also to serve, and also to serve, but also to also get this experience on learning how different functions in the district work, because at different layers of serving in your elected capacity, we all have different roles sometimes when it comes to being, whether you're the chair of a academic committee, whether you're the chair of operations committee, or whether you're the chair of policy, the policy committee, or whether you're the chair of the board. In every different specialty as being chair of those different committees, you learn more, and you get an enlightenment of more. And I think that everyone deserves an equal opportunity. And I think that this is a method to balance that. Versus, to me, it's no different than having a chair, one chair per year. But as well, it's just saying that, okay, this year we know that the chair will come from the north, or this year here, we know the chair will come from the south, and the vice chair. I mean, when you look at this year here, actually the chair and the vice chair come from a different side, and I come from one side. So you have the chair and the vice chair coming from one side of town when you break it down in that form, which now it would be a little different. So I think it's a good governance practice. I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, also, I conclude with majority of what county council do, the school board does, and if we don't do this, and then this was probably one of the first things that I've witnessed that we didn't do that county council has done. So to me, I mean, some people say, well, yeah, it's about talent. Yeah, it's about talent, but also in leadership. People say iron sharpen iron. You can only get better. You shouldn't be getting any worse. And as a team, that's our job to help and develop us all. And I think that is what that is, and that's to be a chance for everyone to grow and develop along the way. So that's why I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
All right.
Can I speak?
Wait, hold on a second. I'm going in order.
Oh,
So-
okay. I thought
All right.
I finished.
That's okay. Mr. Dowling.
Just one point. I believe the motion's made with good intent, and I understand where Mr. Smith is coming from. But one of the key points of Ms. Orshak's motion was that you can re-elect a good chair until you don't want to anymore. If its rotation is required, that places a term limit on the chair. And I don't think that's good governance. Unintended consequence, Will. That's all.
Mel?
Yeah, I don't know whether the county council has a hard fact rule, Will, or whether they do it almost out of courtesy. And they still elect their officers the same way we elect ours. And some type of courtesy is allowed to the other side of the board in terms of the officers, but there is no law. Say one has to be one side and the other has to be from the other side.
All right, vote. I think everybody's had a chance to speak that wanted to, so voting is now open.
No.
No.
Orshak, no.
Mr. Melvin Campbell,
He's muted.
No, I was trying to vote,
Okay.
but I couldn't see it.
The motion fails 110. The one yes is Mr. Smith.
Okay. Madam Chair, you want me to try to get through this first page again?
Exactly. 43 minutes.
All right. Well, is
Yep.
there anything else on page 19? I can't see all the hands, so,
No, no one has their hand up.
okay. So we're all the way to page 20 now.
Yep.
And, in black, has been there since the 2016 revision. Specific authority and duties of the chair. So on page 20, are there any comments?
Yes.
Mr. Dowling?
We touched on this briefly at the work session, but I would like to go down to section 3, which says represent the board, the chair, represent the board as its official spokesperson about issues decided by the board and other matters related to official board business. Now, if the chair considers that a question from another district, from a citizen from another district, does not require a response from the chair, who is the spokesman in that circumstance? It just seems to me to be a dichotomy. If the one and only person that the official spokesman about issues decided by the board is the chair, then I think the chair has to field questions from the entire county and not just the chair's district. That has nothing to do with the current chair. It's, again, we're trying to pass policy for the proper role of whoever's in the seat as chair. So my question would be, if the chair is not responsible for answering questions from all 11 districts, who is? A member can't speak for the board. A rank and file member cannot speak for the board. So who would be the official spokesperson? I think that the chair really needs to, if something's addressed to the chair, people could help by writing their email to the chair and CCing the rest of us, then it would be clear who it's to. But that notwithstanding, if the email seems to be addressed to the chair, no matter where it comes from, I think the chair should be responsible to respond. So I have no problem with the way that it's written. I'm just trying to get some clarification on it.
You know, I think the slippery part of that, John, is the other official board business related to official board business, and you know, I'm not sure how that translates to responding to constituents.
Well, I think any vote the board takes is official board business. So if
I agree with that, but
yeah,
if there's an email question sent to the board, is that official board business? You know, that's the part I think that we need to.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
I see what you're saying. So I would suggest that official board business may be anything that's under the purview of the board. That's the definition that we ask our public commenters to stay with.
Well, the commenters are the domain of the board, right? So,
right,
yeah,
right.
I know I don't want to get too down in the weeds on words, but I just want to make sure we don't have to have the same discussion again.
Yep. So could the policy committee explore that in a little bit more depth and see if some wording to fine tune it is more precise?
I really need to know what your target is, because I'm not completely understanding it.
Okay, my target is this. For any district right now, other than 9, who is the official spokesperson for the board? Because the chair has stated that questions to the chair from people residing in another district are not her responsibility to answer. So who answers? I can't speak for the board, even if the question came from one of my constituents. I'm rank and file member. The board is not bound by policy. The board is not bound to anything that I say or do as an individual board member. So who's the default official spokesperson if the chair will not speak for the board, but to anybody but a District 9 citizen?
I'm going to defer to the District 9 representative on this one. I think I remember what's underneath this, but still not sure I have a clear picture on what the policy committee could do.
There's nothing underneath it as far as where I'm coming from.
Well, no, I remember the email and I remember the response.
Yeah.
And so no one was going to respond to that email.
And I'll add that nobody saw all the emails I received from that person. So
let's take that person out. A point of order, Madam Chair. Let's keep this from getting personal. We're trying to decide what a chair, not you, what a chair should be doing in terms of communicating with constituents. Okay, And regardless of what people were involved of the example that brought the issue to the surface, I think we should not address that and talk what we want as a board for the chair to be doing, and leave previous emails and the people who wrote them out of the context.
Thank you for your opinion. Ms. Orshak?
Thank you. I actually had my hand up for another matter.
Okay, well, then hold off.
Yeah, I'll hold off. That's fine.
Ms. Robel?
Yes, I think that the problem becomes with how we define other matters. I think we all agree that the chair represents the board as its official spokesperson about issues decided by the board, right? Anything that the board has decided, if there's she's the one who is asked by the media to comment on it, that type of thing, the chairperson, whoever the chairperson is. I think where the gray comes in is, and other matters related to official board business, because the chair can't speak for the board unless it's a board vote. So, maybe we just stop it after is the official spokesperson about issues decided by the board, period.
That's good.
Mr. Melvin Campbell? Mel, you're muted.
Yeah, forgive me. I don't see that, this being directed in terms of the intent of what I think John is coming from in terms of who responds to the public, because this is talking strictly about board business decisions. And if it's something relevant to a constituency needing an opinion or a comment that's not, board decided, then it's not relevant. But if it is board decided, then John is on point. The chair is probably more obligated to respond if nobody else does. And I think this is fine the way it's written myself. I don't, unless we get into the gray of what's official business and what's not. And Mel, you shouldn't have responded because that's official board business. That should have been the chair's responsibility. And that's, that's the gray area that is, in my mind, unclear. But where this is written, I think it's fine.
Mr. Smith? You're muted.
Right. Well, I do see where Mr. Dowling is talking about, and that also within that, the chair is also supposed to be the neutral person that speaks for the board. So that's why I do understand it because the chair is supposed to be the neutral person that does represent the board and speaks for the board, and especially when issues come to the board in that fashion. That's was kind of how I was understanding it. So I agree with Kathy. Maybe we should just drop the second sentence.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I can make that. Yeah, I can make that motion.
I'll
That's a
second
motion.
the discussion.
So state your motion, Mr. Smith.
Can I make a suggestion? I have motion to remove and other matters related to official board business under GC 4.H. Chair number 3. Is that what you all are asking to be removed?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe so. Mr. Dowling?
I move that, I want to amend Mr. Smith's motion. I move that the remove and other matters related to official board business. And also to send that phrase back to the policy committee for definition of who speaks for the board on other matters.
I'll second.
It's just that there's still a hole. There's still a hole there.
Yeah.
Got you.
So Robin, you're gonna, it sounds like,
I'm working, give me a second, I'm trying to work on it.
okay,
Amend motion to remove blah, 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 and send Mr. Dowling and send what to the policy committee to define?
The matter that, send the wording that was removed to the policy committee for further definition of who speaks for the board on other matters related to board business.
Can I ask a question? If it's not on there, then what are we sending to the policy if it's voted not to be on there?
It's part of the,
He amended it.
I just amended, left Mr. Smith's motion alone.
Right,
Okay.
you want to he wants to remove that whole item.
Right, and send the item to the policy committee.
Okay,
Yeah, good.
so you're still working on it, right?
correct.
Okay, Mr. Earl Campbell.
Yes, my question is this. If the chair does not speak for the board, who are we going to appoint somebody to speak for the board? It's just like county council chair. He speaks for the county council members.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we are going through this. That's to me. That's to me. You got to have somebody to speak for the board, because all of us can't.
Does that meet your approval, John?
Oh, let me see. Amend motion to remove and other matters related to official board business and send the wording to the policy committee for further definition of responsibility.
Ms. Orshak?
One of the reasons why we're having this discussion is because the board recently took a vote. I don't have the motion in front of me, but the board basically said we are not going to require the chair to respond to emails outside of his or her electoral district. And this policy in front of us, unedited, is in conflict with that. So this does deserve clarity here. I'm going to be supporting this because I think for future chairs, whoever they may be, they're going to need some direction as to what they can appropriately respond to and not respond to. So yes, I think this is necessary.
I won't be supporting this, and the reason is that the chair for Beaufort County School District is not elected by the county as a whole. The chair is one of the district representatives, and I think each district representative needs to respond to their own constituents. Now, you can't always tell who that person asking a question or sending in an email, whose district they are. But that is why I will not support this, because I really think that, yes, like if the newspaper asks a question, the chair typically does, represent the board in terms of the official business, i.e. what has been voted on. But that's also in terms of when a constituent asks, well, what was the board vote on this? I mean, there's no reason why, a district representative couldn't answer that question. And I gave before the same example. Nancy Pelosi does not respond to somebody who is not in her district. I can tell you for sure because I've written her. So, and you're right, Joanne, we already voted on this and it wasn't too long ago and I was trying to find it, but I can't find it right now. Mr. Dowling.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave my hand up.
Mr. Smith.
I can kind of see on both sides where it's coming from, but also at first I was kind of shocked that Mr. Dowling made this motion, but as I read and as I understand it and hear everyone talk, I do think that this motion has merit to it because of the fact that I remember one time when I was out in town and I did have someone tell me that one time that they had written, or better yet, I just better yet, let me use another example. What if someone has a issue with the superintendent or someone have an issue in the district and they don't know who to write to and they write to the chair and the chair this time feels that this person is not in their district and the chair does not actually, the chair does not write back or does not respond to the person because the chair feels that the person is not in their district. Then the question becomes, then what action or will this person get attention? So with that, I do think that there is some validity in this so that we can know, or whoever the chair is moving forward, they can know how the board expects them to react in that capacity. So with that being said, I do see validity in this motion because the board will come back with a clear answer so we will know how to proceed moving forward. Thank you.
Kathy Robine.
Yeah, I think answering emails and being a spokesperson about official board business are two different items. I think we're getting them confused here, and I will not be supporting this motion.
Mr. Smith, I don't think your hand went down. Ms. Orshak?
Just, again, I'm not really going to be here to benefit, from the outcome of a change here. I can just share that I've worked with board chairs that have been completely uncommunicative. I've worked with board chairs who really did a stellar job at communicating and responding and outreach. And I've seen how effective the board chairs, assuming they don't overstep or overextend, can be as a spokesperson for the board in just simply recounting accurate board action and directing constituents from all over the county to the appropriate point person at district. They can be quite effective. I'm not certain this will play out well if this board says, no, we really want to curtail our chairs in the future from responding beyond their own district. I'm not sure. It may be okay and it may be done elsewhere, but it may not be well received. So just my 2 cents there.
Melvin Campbell?
I will support the motion primarily because I'd like to see us develop another policy where we clarified on who communicates to whom and who's got the final responsibility of making that communication. Because if, someone writes the board and they're from my district and they, allow that, then I expect to respond to them. But if they don't allow that, then I expect that they want a response. And in my mind, when we develop that policy, we got to cover all of those differences.
Ms. Fidrich?
I'm going to support this motion for what, basically I agree with Mel. It has engendered a lot of conversation and I'm still not sure what the target is here. And so I think sending it back to the policy committee for discussion is worthy.
All right, voting is now open.
Yes.
Orishak, yes.
Mr. Earl Campbell, you're muted, sir. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, that's okay. That's me.
Mel
Mr.
Campbell, yes.
Okay.
Let's see where I can pull that.
The motion carries 6-5. The 6 yeses are Dowling, Orishak, Campbell, Fidrich, Wisniewski, and Smith. All right, so then that makes the original motion go away because it included the original motion as part of it.
Okay.
Ms. Orishak?
Madam Chair, I move that we're still on page, let's see here. We are still on page 20.
DC 4.8, under
Yeah.
chair.
Under chair duties, authority and duties. Number 6, I move to amend number 6 to read, nominate members of all board committees subject to board approval, so that remains the same. Board committees shall be comprised of 5 members.
Seconded.
And if I may comment as the maker of the motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, Robin, did you get that before
I'm typing, hold on, should be comprised of
I'll wait till you get the motion.
5 board members.
Yes, committees shall be comprised of 5 board members.
All right.
Okay, thank you. The reason why I'm proposing this, and while there are many, many benefits of 3-member committees, with a 3-member committee, anytime 2 of those members confer privately, be it a telephone call or a informal exchange, if you are at any time discussing business germane to your committee composition, you have convened an illegal meeting. Now, it may sound picky, but it makes a difference when you show up at the next meeting and it appears that something has magically formulated amongst 2 of the 3 board members. 5 is much safer. You may not always have 5 folks volunteer, but the policy says that the chair will nominate. It does say pending board approval, but it does put the chair in the position to nominate. So just as, you know, we've had a 4-member committee in the past and the chair has nominated a 5th member based on interest, much later expressed, but interest, I think that's appropriate. So that's the reason for my motion. It'll prevent the appearance of any sort of impropriety or illegal committee meetings taking place in between formal agended meetings.
Who seconded the motion, please?
I did. William Smith did.
Mr. Strippinger?
I would suggest that that motion would be more appropriate when we get to the section about committees. Because this is the duty of the chair. So.
Correct, but we are detailing here that the chair is appointing.
Right.
So I see no harm in reiterating it twice.
Okay.
Having served as chair for 20 months, I can tell you that a lot of members think that people ask to be on committees. And a lot of times it's actually the opposite. People ask, don't put me on that committee. So my reasoning, I followed the policy every single time because it says 5 or less, don't appoint more than 5 members, and it can be less than 5 members. And I've tried to stick with the people that actually volunteered for the committee prior to the appointment of the committee. So you know, it's 5 members, and we've got tons of committees going on. That's going to be, we already have a lot of stipends for committees, and 5 members on all these committees is going to increase the stipends. It's just, it doesn't always work out that way. You'd think, yes, it would work out that people would be interested, but I can assure you after 20 months, it's not, it doesn't work out like that necessarily at all. Mr. Dowling?
Okay, 2 quick things. The stipends are a drop in the bucket. I don't think it's a relevant issue. I think that any leadership challenges presented to the chair to find 5 people does not outweigh the legal challenge that Ms. Orshak has pointed out, that 2 of the 3 talking is an illegal meeting, and it gets in the way of things, and it reinforces the natural public suspicion that we're not being transparent. I mean, that's a national thing. That has nothing to do with Beaufort County, but it's there, okay? And so I would hope that if the chair is having trouble getting 5, she would persuade people to get on it. That's part of leadership, in my opinion.
Ms. Orshak?
Well, I mean, I've never been approached to join a committee because we lacked members. That was just my personal experience. But I would say, given your firsthand experience, Tina, that prior to you arriving on the board very successfully and easily worked with 5-member committees. Another additional benefit that the 5-member committee brings is it's a larger representative of the board's population. So when that committee brings forth a recommendation, it is sometimes perceived a little more valid. If there is more dissension among, how a vote came forward, it gives the board greater pause to reevaluate the recommendation that has been brought before them. So, I mean, I'll be voting yes for this and reiterating it, just tacking it on once again when we get to the committee's portion of the manual, should it be the board's will to add this.
Mr. Smith?
I was going to say that I think I too agree that 5 people would be better than 3. Also with the notion of if one member didn't come there, then now you're talking about someone being chair, and realistically, the from my understanding is that the chair should not really vote unless there's a tie to be broken, and now you have more people to be able to vote. And actually get involved versus 2, then most of the time in a single committee of 3, then most time you have the chair of those committees would vote. But along with that, I think that is you have more eyes and more ears on these committees to understand and process the information that is being given, because there's a lot of times where in committee meetings where there's way more information being given on committees than it is actual as board members. And I think that 5 is a suitable number. If someone gets sick, if someone gets an accident, then you actually still have the actual 3 people to still go on with that meeting. So I will be supporting this motion. And it is our responsibility to fill these boards as well, these positions on these boards, on these committees.
I'll just speak to one thing because I don't want the public to be confused. There's nothing in our policy that says the chair can only vote if there's a tie. Everybody on this board has the exact same power to vote, whether they're their chair or the vice chair or the secretary or not an officer. The vote is, all the votes are the same. All right, Mr. Melvin Campbell.
Yeah, I would support the motion primarily because I think 5 does have better optics and gives us a little bit more flexibility from a committee standpoint. 1 person absent out of 3 kind of leads it to almost a non-functional committee. And sometimes, we just can't make the committee meetings. And if you got 4 people making it, it's a lot different than if you have 2 people making the meetings. And, public perception is important, like Joanne said, and the optics are that we're making decisions in the back room. So we want to make sure we clarify that perception, that we're not.
Mr. Dowling?
I think that there's a tendency, human nature being what it is, if with a 3-person committee to appoint people who will quote unquote get along with each other or work well together and all that good stuff. 5 people, I think, honors the concept of diversity, where you can have diversity of opinion, so that when the committee does make a recommendation to the board, it may be the end result of healthy and robust debate, having considered all kinds of alternative opinions.
All right, voting is now open.
Yes.
Orshak, yes.
No.
Al Campbell, yes.
Rachel, how are you voting?
We had
Rachel's
to leave.
gone.
Oh,
She put it in the chat box.
oh, she's gone. Okay. Tina, how are you voting?
No.
All right.
The motion fails 4-6. 6 noes are Earl Campbell, Christina Gauds, David Strivenger, Kathy Robine, Tricia Fidrich, and Richard Geyer.
Okay. Anything else on page 20?
Can you put up your hand, Mr. Smith, please, if you'd like to speak so I can recognize you? Thanks.
No problem, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, are you navigating this, or is Mr. Scrivener navigating this?
Mr. Strivenger is.
Okay, so even though Mr. Scrivener is navigating this, then you want to acknowledge people as well. So even if he asks questions, so maybe you should navigate it, not him, or how does it work? Can you help me understand that?
I'm navigating the document. She's running the meeting.
Thank you.
Right, but Mr. Scrivener, right, but actually the question is for the chair because of the fact that
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get off page 20, Will.
And I understand that, but you asked the question, and I was answering your question, and then the chair jumped in and said she asked me to put my hand up. So that's why I needed further clarification from her, not you.
All right, I'll back off.
I agree with what Mr. Strivenger just said. I'm watching the hands. Ms. Orshak?
Madam Chair, I just want to say to Mr. Strivenger, I know you chaired this policy committee. You did a very good job. Please don't take it personally. I sense a little frustration on your part. When the board has input and suggestions, it is a little slow going. I recognize that, but it is not a commentary on the job that you and your committee have done. You've done a wonderful job. So bear with us if you would. Have a little patience.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Oops.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I realize that we're still on a first reading, but I will submit that a sentence from page 20 went through without any objection. And it said that the chair will refrain from repeating, summarizing, or disagreeing with members' comments as discussion is facilitated. So even though that has not been adopted yet, it has not been objected to, and it might be a good idea if you get on board with that.
And how is that a point of order, sir? There is no point of order there. That's not a point of order. That's
okay.
Misuse of that motion or your, yeah. Mr. Smith.
Very good, very good. It was personal privilege then.
Mr. Smith?
Um, I did, you know, at this point, I will just, we will have another reading of this, so I will leave it. No problem. You can go on, Mr. Scripps. I said we can get more done. Thank you. No problem.
Can you please take your electronic hand down, William? Thank you. All right, David, you want to keep going? I think we're
Okay, are we off page 20 or are there more hands?
there's no more hands.
Okay, I can't see them all. All right, we're on to page 21. I just remind everyone that the things in black are from our current policy, so they're still in effect. They're not relying on us to pass this.
Did I keep scrolling or?
Ms. Rorschach?
A question for David. Did the committee consider any additional formalized duties for the vice chair? I mean, you have the chair and the secretary, obviously very heavy with duties, and the vice chairs is the most light of all. Had the committee looked at that at all or no?
We discussed it, and I believe this was the conclusion was that this basically is what the vice chair does.
Okay. Okay. I was curious. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, we did notice the disparity in duties, but
yeah.
okay, can I move to 22 or are there hands?
No hands still.
No hands? All right, 22, here we are, GC5 board committees. I just point out, you'll notice in 4A, in parentheses at the end, it says from board action taken on June 23rd, 2020. The committee did try to make sure that we had a cite when something was put in here based on a motion, so that you could refer back to the original motion.
My hand's up. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Actually, Mr. Scribble, I apologize. Can we back up to page 21? On page 21, 5. Coordinating the annual evaluation of the executive assistant to the board. If you look on page 20, that would go along with the chair, because the fact that these my question is it says that the that number 8, that and number 8 on page 20 should go together.
Different.
You want me to respond to that, Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we've had multiple discussions about this in multiple policy committees.
Right.
And it is confusing, but I believe all the committees came to the same conclusion, that the chair ensures that it's done, but the secretary actually coordinates it. So one is, actually getting it done, and one is making sure that it got done. And I think, and certainly I'll defer to previous policy committees, but I think that's where all the committees ended up on that. Maybe the wording could be clearer, but.
Yeah, at this time, I would like to move that we will send this back to the policy committee to further look into this at this time.
What are you sending back?
So you have to say exactly what you're sending back.
On page 21,
Mhm.
number 5 sentence, I would like the policy to take a look at that.
Okay, so that's GC 4.
Or H dash secretary number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. But I think I can clarify it.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Actually,
we
has it
talked
had a
about,
second?
Second,
Point of
yeah.
order.
Mr.
I have a
Smith,
second.
need a second.
Do we need a second?
Well,
Yes, ma'am, for discussion.
Did someone second? I wasn't. No, I'll second.
Second.
Okay.
So you are seconding?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay. All right, so now Kathy, go ahead.
okay, on page 20, and we tried to, I think there was confusion in the past, so we tried to clear it up. And page 20, the chair has 2 responsibilities: to supervise the executive assistant to the board and to ensure that an annual performance evaluation is done. And the chair is the one who, as the supervisor, shares the evaluation with the executive assistant. The secretary is to coordinate the annual evaluation, collecting all the materials, sending up. It's the coordination versus making sure that it gets done. So, reminding the secretary or whatever, this has to get done. It's your responsibility, the secretary's responsibility to coordinate it, get the forms out, whatever mechanism's going to be used and collected. And then as the supervisor, the chair is the supervisor of the executive assistant, then the chair meets with the executive assistant for the final evaluation. I believe that the reason we broke it out like that is because there was confusion before. We tried to make it clearer.
Yeah, Kathy, I agree. I mean, I don't think they're saying the same thing. I agree exactly with how you interpret it. They're 2 separate issues. They're not one and the same. Ms. Orshak?
So if they're open to interpretation by anyone, it couldn't hurt to add a little clarifying language. Summarize what coordinate is, compile administrative documents, schedule the date. If the policy committee would want to add that sort of language. So the evaluation is only between 2 of the officers. The vice chair is completely removed from the process according to old and proposed new policy, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So, Robin, could you please put the motion on the screen? Thank you. Okay. And so I think we're ready for voting because I think William and Kathy, your hands are still up, but I don't think you took them
Oh,
down.
sorry.
Thank you. All right.
Should I open voting?
Yes, please.
Voting is open.
Dowling, yes.
No for Guads.
Orshak,
Oh.
yes.
Campbell, no. Mel Campbell, no.
Mr. Earl Campbell,
Said no.
thank you. And Dr. Winetsky is gone.
Correct.
Is she gone for the rest of the meeting or
I
just
believe
temporarily?
so.
Okay, then I'll take her out the queue.
Okay, so the motion fails 4-6. The 6 noes are Earl Campbell, Christina Guads, David Strivenger, Kathy Robine, Melvin Campbell, and Mr. Guyer. So we'll continue on.
Okay, is there anything else on page 21? All right, then we will go to page 22.
Ms. Orshak?
David, the other night you mentioned there was a section that referenced the chair assigning agenda items to committees. Where can that be found? I don't see it on this page. Rachel Wisniewski mentioned that it is in fact in our manual somewhere, but I just thought it might be in here, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Joanne. I'm under the impression that it's in here somewhere, but I don't know exactly where.
Okay. We'll tackle that when we get to it. Thank you.
But yeah, Dr. Wisniewski and I could both be wrong on that.
It's
Although that's been practice. You know, we might have confused practice with actually what's in the policy, which has always been a problem for us.
I cited the policy the other night, and I think it was 3.2 Roman numeral. Does anybody remember? It might have been 9. And I think B, as I recall. It is in our current policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do we
Would
have
you like me
hands
to read it,
on?
Madam Chair?
Excuse me?
Would you like me to read it?
Go right ahead.
Okay, it does, you're right, it's 3.2 under board committees, Roman numeral 9. Matters may be added to a committee agenda as follows. Matters involving Beaufort County School District business may be initiated by staff but shall be approved by the committee chair. Or items may be assigned to a committee by the board chair, period. Items requested to be added by a board member shall be made in the same manner as a request to add a matter to the full board agenda.
Tricia, what page is that, if I may?
You know, Joanne, it's policy 3.2 board committees. I'm going from the paper copy and it doesn't have a page number. But it's under board policies 3.2, Roman numeral 9, letter B, as in boy.
The manual I'm working with is they're labeled differently. Let's see.
Are you looking online right now?
I'm using the copy that is in board docs.
Well, that's the new manual.
That's the one I've been working with for today's meeting, simply because it's in board docs for today's meeting. And
Okay.
I think that's the issue, Joanne. It's in our current policy manual that's posted on the district website. This is the, draft manual that we're still on reading number 1 that's not approved. So we're talking about the current manual.
The current manual, well, the one that's in board doc that I'm looking at right now does not have any reference to what Tricia just mentioned under board policies, board committees, excuse me. So it must have been removed by the policy committee or just accidentally, maybe it's elsewhere. We'll see.
I don't think it's elsewhere, Mr. Orshak. I think you're right. I think the policy committee dropped that.
Gotcha. I like it. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, any hands on 22?
I'll let you know.
Okay. So we'll roll to 23. Annual work plan.
Uh-oh, it's September 3rd and we haven't approved the work plan in August.
That's true. That's true. Well,
We haven't approved the
We haven't
OEs yet
approved
either.
this yet either, so.
That's why we're still working on the,
Last year either.
that's why we're still currently using the work plan from the last 2
The
years.
previous years, yeah.
with the previous PEs.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, can we move to 24? Board members code of conduct. I think this will probably take us right up to 6 o'clock. And the blue we took care of, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did.
Should I keep scrolling through? Any?
Well, yeah, I don't want to go too fast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Nope.
no hands still.
There, Madam Chair, let me know if there's hands. So, on to page 25.
Mr. Dowling?
David, I'm sorry. I was asleep at the switch. Page 24. 1E. I'd just like to point out that the board members will not consider the interests, will consider the interests of the district, will not consider just the interests of the district from which a board member is elected. Okay, anyway.
Right, but I think that that's under number 1, which says the responsibility to the whole is greater than the interests of the district, right?
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Okay. All right, page 25, which is a short page.
John, can you please put your electronic hand down? Thank you. It's still up. Maybe,
I just put it back up, Madam Chair.
go ahead.
Okay. David, number D. Make every reasonable effort to protect the integrity and promote the positive image of the district and one another. If I recall correctly, Peggy Torrey's advice was be discreet with information, even if it's public information, if the information casts the district in a less than positive light. I interpret that to mean keep information from the public that they have a right to know, unless they ask for it. I would like to see some language that talks about a member's responsibility to provide information, period, to the public and let the chips fall where they may, whether the public thinks that that casts a positive or negative light on the school district. Public information is public information. The laws don't mention positive public information. And so I'm very concerned about the word protect being in there. We had discussions previous boards, that the job of the board was to protect the image of the school district. And that was in the context of releasing subpoenas, which I think everyone agrees now the public had a right to see. So I would move that that gets sent back to Finance Committee, excuse me, to Policy Committee. Sorry, Joanne. They get moved back to the Policy Committee for some rework on the verbiage.
So this is GC7,
Seconded.
4.
Yeah, D is in Dowling.
Okay. So did you get that, Robin? GC7, 4D. Mr. Smith seconded the motion. Mr. Strivenger?
Again, I wish you could be a little more specific about what it is you want the policy committee to come up with. Because this has made it through 4 policy committees.
Right.
I think I know what your point is, but just saying to send it back for rewording is not going to really give us good direction.
Right.
Okay. Well, but we could discuss it at policy committee as to what the appropriate verbiage should be. If you want me to take a stab at it now, I will, but I'll be thinking out loud, okay? Make every reasonable effort to promote I just disagree. I move that we, excuse me, I'm going to amend my motion, move that we strike D.
So we need a second now for that.
I'll
I'll
second.
second that. Okay.
All right, Mr. Strivenger seconded it. Ms. Orshak?
I think there are several items in here that have no teeth at all. I mean, they're harmless because they're very seldom enforced. I mean, oh gosh, I mean, look at G, withhold judgment on issues until enforced. I think it's a nature thing. Everyone jumps to keep. Yeah, there's just so many things. When this motion is over, I'm going to make a motion to add the 7 guiding principles of coherent governance in here. They actually have teeth and would fit in nicely here if they're not already placed elsewhere.
I think you already placed them in the manual or handbook.
Handbook, yes.
Yeah, handbook, sorry. You already put them in the handbook. All right, any further discussion of the motion on the table? All right. Oh, Ms. Robine?
I would just like to remind everyone that everything that's written in here in black is in our policy currently and has been for years. So just.
Yeah, it's meaningless.
I'll put my hand down.
Voting open?
Yeah.
Oh, Madam Chair, okay,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. I had put my hand up again to
Okay,
respond
go
to Ms. Robine. Kathy, with all due respect, what's it got to do with the price of tea in China as to how long something has been in the policy manual? If it shouldn't be in there, we ought to pat ourselves on the back for trying to get rid of it. And this is an innocuous statement, and our duty is to tell the public everything that's going on, not just the good. We are not a booster club. We're the governing body.
If I can reply, John, I don't think that this statement infers that. I don't think that makes us. I think if you read the other statements in here about being acting with integrity and that type of thing, but my statement is just that, you know, we're going through these now. Policy committees before us have gone through them and they've stayed. I don't have any problem with removing it, but I'm just saying, you know, for the public to know, it's not something that this policy committee added in. It's been in our policy for a very long time. That's all.
Okay.
Mr. Smith? Oh, you put your hand down or up? Okay, go ahead.
He's muted.
I was just going to say that I did agree with Mr. Dolly that, you know, there, of course, upon our changing of these policies and procedures, there's a lot of stuff that has been in the the policies and procedures, and I think sometimes change is good. We probably can't and should not continue operating the way how some boards operate, because as time goes by, technology and everything else gets more it moves up as well. So along with that, I think we as a board we need to exist and change some of our operation functionals as well. Thank you.
All right, voting is now open, Robin.
Voting's
Dowling,
open.
yes. Dowling,
No.
yes.
Smith, yes.
Mel Campbell, no.
Orchak, yes.
The motion fails with a 5-5 vote. All right. Mr. Smith, I don't think you put your hand back down, but maybe you did, and maybe it's back up, or
He's muted.
okay, Ms. Orshak?
The suggestion as we continue the rest of the meeting, if we could, rather than talking over each other, since we don't have electronic voting this evening, if we could just go in order of district, like a roll call vote, that might make it easier for Robin to record everyone. Just a suggestion.
Some people
We have
are voting electronically.
Robin, I got board docs. However, I haven't received any boxes for voting this evening.
You might have to refresh your board docs.
Let me give that a
It
try.
happened to me, Joanne. I had to go back in there, I think twice already.
Okay.
I've done it twice and still
Yeah,
can't.
me too, Mel.
vote.
All right, Mr. Scrivener, continue on.
Okay. Are we done with page 24? Are we still on 25?
No one's hand is up.
Okay.
We got 12 minutes.
Okay.
Okay,
We're all the way to page 26 then.
yes.
And again, this board member conflict of interest. It's all in black. The South Carolina code is referenced. Okay. Page 27. Okay. Page 28, addressing board member violations.
Madam Chair,
GC9.
Madam Chair, point of personal privilege.
Go ahead.
I would ask if you would entertain a motion to adjourn, because there's, I feel very confident that this next section will take a while to discuss. And I don't think it would be helpful to any of us if it were interrupted mid-course. And I would feel better if we were taking it up at the beginning of our next session on the policy.
And
If
so
you
what
would
are you referencing?
Addressing board member violations, GC9.
Okay.
So if you'll entertain a motion to adjourn, I will make that motion.
You can make the motion.
Okay. I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Smith, yes.
Okay, I think we have 3 yeses.
Yes.
I believe I've heard Mel, Earl, Will,
John.
John.
Mel Campbell said yes, Tricia said yes, William Smith said yes, and Dick Geyer said yes.
Okay, and so count that. How many is that?
So far, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Okay.
Good night.
All right.
Are we adjourned, Robin? I'm sorry, I was with Judah.
Yes, we're adjourned. Yes,
Okay.
we're adjourned.
Thank you.